I had a curious experience recently when revisiting The White Mountains by John Christopher. I wanted to reread this for nostalgic reasons, and so I got myself a copy of the Penguin Classic version of the story, cover I'll show here, and I read it, having not read it since I was a kid, and it must have been one of the very first science fiction books that I did read. God knows when, maybe when I was 12. I'm pretty sure it was a library book. And I'll show a cover of the book that I think I did read, the edition of the book that I think I did read here. And and then this is the whole set for that series. I think I remember the third one with the horse for sure. But when I say for sure, who trusts memory anymore? So anyway, I read the Penguin Classic and I did not enjoy it. I thought the book was much more juvenile than I remembered it, and I was unimpressed with the well, just the general story, the general atmosphere, and it didn't come across in the way that I remembered as a child, as this kind of urgent chase, escape the boys had to make from the England down to the Pyrenees, I believe. And so I kind of didn't review it because I was a bit perplexed about how this had come about, that my memory of the book did not match my rereading of it. But I didn't give up, and Audible had a sale, and I finally opened my moth-filled wallet to buy a copy of the audiobook. And I listened to that. And boy, oh boy, let me tell you who it's by. It was, well, it was by John Christopher. The reader, or the artist who performed the book for me, was William Gaminara. And he does a good job, I'd say a very good job, of reading the book. And guess what? I really enjoyed it. And of course, now I'm perplexed about how come when I read it, I did not enjoy it, but when I listened to it, I really enjoyed it. And I wonder whether it's something to do with having a book read to you. It it may be, well, first of all the effort is put on the reader, and so the reward is more easily gained if you've got a good reader. But also maybe it was kind of like, when you're a kid and you get books read to you, that subconsciously I was having a kind of, you know, oh, it's my dad reading it to me. He never did, not that book. He did read books to us, but not that one. Or maybe, no, he never did. He never read that one to us, and to me. And so I do wonder whether it's that. Anyway, I was delighted to report that I really enjoyed the listening to the book, and as I say, I'm perplexed about why I didn't enjoy reading it. The If you haven't read it, so now I can say hand on heart, if you haven't read it, it is worth reading. And if you haven't listened to the audiobook, that is worth listening to. It's a classic of science fiction. And you even in modern editions, I think in the Penguin edition, the Penguin Classic edition that I read, and also in the audiobook, John Christopher gives a little preamble to the story about how he wrote it and how many revisions it had to go to. He was specifically asked to write a children's book, and he didn't want to do science fiction. He wanted to do something medieval, he says. And so this was his compromise of, medieval future. That's the AC coming on. And so that's how he got around it. But it had to go through multiple revisions, not because of his English publisher, but because of the American publisher. I think it was something like Macmillan, it's Macmillan, and then whoever they publish, whatever their imprint here is in the United States. The lady who was his editor there gave him hell, and he says made the book a much better book because he essentially revised all of it. And as I say, I'm pleased to report it. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to reading the rest. There's some of the highlights of the book are the world that Christopher creates, because in some ways, now I look at it, it feels like a story, very specifically a coming of age story. Now, obviously, it's about boys, and so it is about an adventure and them growing up. But it's the fact, I'm not going to give anything away here, the fact that boys are capped when they're 13, I think, and that capping. So what happens is these tripods. I'm assuming you know everything about the story. Earth has been subjugated by these aliens that tramp around the countryside in tripods, which look very much like the Wall of the World, which I imagine are very similar to the War of the Worlds, H.G. Wells tripods, and I presume that's where Christopher is vibing them from. They tramp around, they've dominated the world, and the way that they control humans is they cap them with these kind of wire caps that they put very snugly fitted to their heads, and which apparently, pierce the skin and the skull. And through these, the tripods can control the adults, or the boys that then become adults, controlled adults. And so all adults, men and women, have caps, and they're controlled through these caps. And again, as I say, it happens at 13, and it's considered a kind of rite of passage. There's another book that I'll review, Rite of Passage. It's considered a rite of passage from childhood to adulthood. And so you can kind of, the way I looked at it reading this time was that the tripods are an expression of the adult world, of the machine, the system that you must become part of uh, if you want to fit into the adult world that we now live in. And the putting of the cap on is kind of a way of saying, oh, correct, you have to join the workforce, you have to earn your daily bread, and so on and so forth. And so I really liked that, in my mind, parallel between the present world we live in and the world he creates in the future. But it is a nice divide, is that the boys want to retain, because obviously we follow three boys who don't get capped or avoid getting capped because they want to retain their independence from the tripods. And in a way, it's they're maintaining their freedom. And so I kind of saw that as a kind of an analogy or a metaphor for not growing up, and that staying as a young boy or as a young person and retaining your creativity and not getting sucked into the machine that is adult life. So I really liked that. And also, I thought the way various features of the world, for example, his explanation of vagrants. Now, vagrants are people who are capped, but then the cap doesn't take and they kind of go nuts. The cap caused them to basically have a mental breakdown, and they remain permanently damaged for the rest of their lives. And so they wander around in this kind of medieval world where there are serfs and lords. I mean, it's like that. It's kind of this medieval world where you have small villages, and everything is local. There's no international trade. There's no cars, no internal combustion engines. There's horses, there's carts. It's medieval. And in the society, these vagrants are treated as kind of lost souls, and they're given charity and they're looked after. And that's how the boys get recruited, through a man who's pretending to be a vagrant. I'm not giving anything away, that happens very early in the story. And then they have a whole adventure about how they then have to escape the society they're in and get to the White Mountains, where they will meet the revolution. And there are lots of great scenes where you get a sense of the past that's been lost, and not lost too long ago, from the description of particularly Paris, which is a city they pass through and it's been completely deserted. Uh, Part mainly because the people who are extant in the world in this future consider the cities kind of places full of ghosts. And that's another, again, really, I like that. Places full of ghosts, and so people don't want to go in there. And there are lots of great scenes of things they find, and not just there, but in other places, of these clues of the fact that there was this other world, this civilization, before the tripods took over. And kind of the tripods are kind of, certainly before our hero meets this vagrant, he assumes that the world has kind of always had tripods in them. So that's also, I like that as well. Although he kind of guesses that there must have been something before, because there are all these relics of what went before, but doesn't really understand what happened. And the vagrant, so-called vagrant, has to explain to him how the world came to be. Anyway, I mentioned, I also, in addition, so apart from recommending it, the part of the reason why I'm on this jag about the White Mountains is I came across the series, the American series, or one of the American series versions, at a school book sale recently, and you can see them here. Proudly show them to you. And I must say this sorry, wrong one. This cover is a little bit too juvenile for me. The covers that I was exposed to as a child feel much more gritty and more, adolescent stroke getting into the adult world. And I'm a big person who's influenced by cover art, and um, I judge a book by the cover. And this is a bit too juvenile for me, I think, even though they're quite handsome editions. I mean, they're lovely colours, and the artwork itself is lovingly done, well executed, but just in a style which is a little bit too young for me, I think. But maybe that's a way of getting younger people to read the book, which would be a good thing. Anyway, that's my little diatribe this week, and I will read or audio listen to the remaining two books, and I'll give you an update. There's also a prequel which kind of gets disparaged quite a lot by aficionados and reviewers, and I will give that a view as well, a go at some point as well, and I'll let you know about that too. Okay, in the meantime, have a great one. Bye.